All right. Good morning, Way Academy, or good afternoon, good evening. Who knows when some of you look at this? I've been trying to get you to message me online so we can set up a time to work together, but no one seems to be replying. So here I am. Um, now that we are getting close to finishing The Hate You Give, and in some cases, some of you have already read ahead, I want to remind you that the novel study is the required project for you, and it gets you a lot of strands. So if you're looking for the biggest bang for your buck, as they say, this is the project for you. So, just a quick recap. Novel studies are a way to learn and apply strategies to comprehend, that means to understand, and to see things differently, or understand others with differing, even opposing viewpoints. Fancy language for saying novels allow us to take a closer look at a book, to examine how other people may look at something that you may have a different opinion on. So it educates us on different opinions and different realities out there to help us make an informed decision on our own life. Developing a repertoire of ways to think about or understand ideas and context helps us learn new things. So, developing a repertoire, that means developing our skills or our toolkit, coming up with multiple ways to think about and understand ideas, and context means the situation that things are set in. That helps us learn new things. So, again, trying to look at the world from multiple lenses and make the most sense of it. In a novel study, it's the way of building experiences of the world, helping us to see and understand things which have never happened to us, building us on our experiences to increase our knowledge of the unknown, so helping us ask questions and make informed decisions, and enabling us to witness and attempt to understand things from new vantage points. This doesn't even acknowledge the enjoyment part of reading. As I said, I'm always trying to get you guys to find something that you like, the love of reading, but there's ultimately multiple reasons to do well on a novel study. So, as we know, this should take 3 to 5 weeks. We've been at it almost 7 now, so we've had a lot of time to get through the book. If you still need to go back and revisit those dear links, they are in your Hero inbox. I will also be making all of the links available on one sheet at the end of the novel. That will be on Tuesday of next week, so that's something to look forward to. Or if you just want to read the book in your own pace, here it is. All right, kids, there's no excuses. And as I said, it doesn't even have to be for The Hate You Give. You can choose your own novel. But remember, this is a novel study, so that means a chapter book for those of you who are looking for those simple terms. This is not a kid's book, not like the first week of school when we were just getting to know each other. Now we're showing how far we've grown and how we can analyze multiple chapters. The first step to that are the book response questions. So you'll see as you read the book, you'll be completing a variety of activities that will allow you to complete and answer the following. Most of you have already done this stage, so I'll just skim it quickly. But the biographical details, that's the novel's title, that's the name of the book. Don't forget, we have to use proper format, so all titles are either underlined or italicized. That's that fancy slanted writing. So make sure that you do one or the other to show that you know how to document properly. The author is the person who wrote the book, the number of pages in the novel. Clearly state the novel genre. Remember, genre is a fancy term for type of book. Was it a mystery story? Was it historical fiction, science fiction, just regular fiction like The Hate You Give? Some people call it a young adult novel, but clearly the language is not suitable for all young adults. We know even as we were reading it together as a school, certain language was watered down, if you will. Comment on the vocabulary itself. Was it easy to follow? Was it moderate? Did it give you some challenge? Or was it difficult? Even if it was easy, this next step asks you to write a list of 10 vocabulary words from the book. So sort of like our sketch notes from the beginning of the year, you're going to pick 10 words, and if you want, you can just pick 10 random words that you think would challenge other readers. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you don't know. You still have to choose 10 words from the book and define them. If you want to take it to the next step and get to that level 3, consider adding a graphic or sample sentence to further demonstrate that understanding. So just like our sketch notes, you can do it on a page document, you can do it on Keynote, Google Slides, Google Docs, whatever you have access to. Just make sure that you get something done so you can get some credit. Copy 10 of your favorite phrases and sentences from the book. In a well-constructed sentence for each, explain why you chose them. You might consider personal connections, your reactions, or questions that you have. For example, if we were to go back and revisit that idea of roses growing through concrete, you'd find the exact phrase or sentence where that was said, and you'd tell me what you think that meant. We've talked a number of times. That means that even though concrete or bad circumstances, rough times might be a challenge, beauty can come through. The rose can grow through concrete. So maybe you just thought that was a pretty way to look at things, or maybe it reminded you of growth that you've made over the years. But any 10 sentences. All right, so the basic biographical information, 10 vocabulary words, 10 meaningful sentences, explain the significance of the title. We know what thug means for those of you that choose to do this novel study for The Hate U Give. Again, you can choose your own book if desired, but explain the significance of the title. Oftentimes, you'll find a specific page in the book that talks about it directly. But even just overall, give it your best shot. Couple sentences, tell me what the title means. Authors don't choose the titles randomly, so it's important you think of the symbolism behind it. And then, of course, our 5-sentence paragraph. This is a basic review of the book. Would you recommend it? Why or why not? How many stars would you give it? Would you have changed anything in the story? Maybe you would have added a different element to the plot or a new character, maybe a different time or place, how things got resolved, like the outcome, maybe some of the struggles, the point of view. Do you think it was great that Star was the one telling the whole story, or do you think they should have switched back and forth? I haven't shared the news with everyone just yet, but Angie Thomas, the author of The Hate U Give, is releasing another book. I think it's called The Rose That Grew Through Concrete, and it's actually Maverick's point of view, or more of his story and his upbringing. So I'm looking forward. That's not released, I think, until February of next year, but we'll be able to continue the story in a different point of view. So if you have questions about these guys, make sure to come talk to me, but that's basically what's going on. Then the steps break it down. The steps will tell you to do the biographical information, so you put that in step 1. Step 2 is where you do the vocabulary terms. Again, if you're looking for that level 3, make sure to include the definition, a graphic that shows that you understand the definition, and a sample sentence. All right, so again, if you want to go back and look at your your vocabulary sketch notes, that can be a good reminder too. And step 3, of course, those meaningful phrases and sentences. So that's all the breakdown for you from that overview. In terms of check your learning, if you haven't already uploaded along the way, this is where upload images of the documents or the documents of your detailed responses. So very similar to what we've been doing all year. This is where you make sure that you've got everything done. All right, so that's Module 1. I'm going to keep going. You guys can stop and do Module 1 and come back. But I just want to go ahead and put everything out there so those of you ready to keep going can go. And another side note, know that I've chosen the 11-12 option for ELA. The 9-10 novel study is there for you as well. There'll be fewer tasks for you to have to do, but it's the same process. So just pay close attention to the numbers and make sure that you choose the grade that you are accomplishing. Module 2 takes a closer look at the author, all right? So this is where you will learn, as it says, taking a closer look at the author and how he or she writes. So in the case of The Hate U Give, Angie Thomas is an African-American woman who very openly and very vocally talked about writing almost autobiographically her own experiences. It is fiction, but she did base a lot of the story on events from her real life. So you'll be researching that a little bit deeper. So not only how they develop critical thinking skills, but also you'll be learning to compare and contrast themes. Compare means to talk about the similarities, and contrast means to talk about the differences, so how they intertwine. And as we know, theme, that's the underlying message. We talk about in The Hate U Give how good can come from evil circumstances. We talk about the need to take big risks and use the power of your voice. Those are the underlying messages. An easy way to think of it, theme party. If you were thinking about Halloween, everyone would be dressed in some sort of Halloween costume of some kind. The theme of a book is the same thing. What is the common element throughout the book, the message that they're saying? You'll take a look at text and pictures and make connections between the author's life and their work, between their own writing and their own life and their job itself. All right. So step 1, in order to learn more about the author, pretend that you're the author and describe the part that was the most fun or most difficult to write. Use a 5-sentence paragraph to explain why. Be sure to begin by clearly stating your main idea in a topic sentence, followed by 3 supporting sentences that highlight your supporting details and examples. Finish by restating your controlling idea or leaving your reader with something to think about. So again, you pretend that you are the author and you describe the part of the book that was the most fun or most difficult to write. If I were to tackle this, and maybe a big popular scene was the scene where Khalil got shot in chapter 5. The author might say, one of the most difficult parts for me to write in The Hate U Give was when Khalil got shot. There's the topic sentence. What are 3 reasons why it was difficult? And you can sort of have creative freedom here and make up ideas, but remember, you want to be as specific as possible in those supporting sentences to have details and examples to get top grade. All right, I was going to say questions, but again, there's no one here. It's just me at my computer, little Miss Crazy Siobhan. But step 2, we're stepping in a little bit deeper. It's all about technique. What techniques did the author use in the novel that you enjoyed? Maybe you liked the questions or the narrative. Maybe you liked the relationship building. We talked a lot about foreshadowing. Those were the clues or the hints that were given about earlier in the novel, something that may happen later in the novel. So consider the literary devices studied and other lab projects completed. So just like I mentioned, foreshadowing is when you see a clue ahead of time that gives you an indication of what happens later in the book. Allusion is a reference to. If you allude to something, that means you make a reference to something that a lot of people are familiar with. For example, when they talk about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that is an allusion. A lot of people are familiar with that show, and that helps you further deepen your understanding of what's happening in the book. Metaphors and similes, we know they're comparisons. A metaphor compares, it's a technique an author uses to paint a picture by comparing something inanimate, there we go, that doesn't move, to something that does move. But you don't use like or as. Simile uses like or as. So her smile was as bright as the sun. For this, her smile shone like the orb in the sky. I said like though. So the orb in the sky was reminiscent of the smile on her face. So again, the same idea, but without like or as. Suspense, that's where we can't wait to find out what happens next. Sometimes chapters end with a certain question, so find one of those chapters. There's an example. Comedy, when did you laugh? And rhetorical question, that is the author asking a question, but they're not looking for an answer. They're just asking for you to think about it. Like, as I was doing the Dear sessions with you, I'd say, when was the last time you had a good talk with a friend? I wasn't looking for an answer. I just wanted you to think about it. It's asked for you to reflect. Strive to include at least 3 specific examples, and then you're good. All right, so we're always thinking in 3s. And of course, our Check Your Learning, final chance to make sure you have those things updated. If you are looking to get even more credit, write a letter to the author asking questions about at least 5 things you question in the novel. Your response should be about a half a page to 3/4 of a page, and note that you must have successfully completed 1 and 2 in order to get that. So you can submit it all at once, but once you've got steps 1 and 2 done, you're just going to write a little novel or a little letter to the author of the novel, asking a couple questions. All right. So there's steps or modules 1 and 2. Module 3, that's where we take a closer look at character. Some of you may have done this in the specific Hate U Give assignment linked through the Dear updates for you. But essentially, analyzing character, particularly an interesting character, can be fun. It requires a certain degree of investigative theory, so that idea of asking questions and looking in certain ways, and a keen desire, that means you're really excited to do it, to understand the personality of a person who isn't really a person, but rather someone else's creative process. So I know I, for one, feel like I know Star. Like I could go down the street and knock on a door and there she is. But Star is a character. She's not a real person. The author did a phenomenal job of making her feel real to us. So how was that done? In this module, you'll be exploring, describe an experience you've had that was like the experience of a character in the novel. Maybe a friendship went the wrong way, like Haley and Star. Maybe you had a similar incident where a member of your family was not part of your family for a while. Maverick went to jail. Maybe someone was in the hospital or moved away, and you had a new parental figure in your life. Tell me about that. What did you relate to in the book? Explain why you would or would not like to have one of the characters as a friend. Who do you think would be cool to hang out with on the weekend? What would you do? Or who do you think would not be a good friend and your reasons why? Explain how a character in the novel changed from the beginning of the end. What were they like in the beginning of the book and how did they change by the end? That was one of the themes with Star that we looked at a number of times. Her code switching and how she evolved from sort of being one thing at Garden Heights, or pardon me, when she was home at Garden Heights and another at her prep school. And certainly by the end, she's more comfortable in her own skin. Write an interview with one of the major characters. An interview is a series of questions and answers. So you would write the question that you'd like to ask the character and a potential answer from that character. All right. If you want, you could just list a bunch of questions. That could work as well. But remember, we are looking for approximately 3/4 of a page of writing. So again, you're going to want to have at least 10 questions. Identify actors to play the characters in your novel if it were made into a movie. Explain the choices. So if you thought that Keke Palmer from Akeelah and the Bee that we watched earlier this year would make a good Star, or if you thought that Michael B. Jordan would be a better Maverick, whatever you think, who do you think would play the characters in the novel and give me reasons? And would your novel be different if the main character was the opposite gender? If Star had been a male, how would the story have changed? So these are all things that you'll be exploring through these steps. Step 1. Describe an experience that you've had, all right? And again, although spelling and grammar don't count, you can just write as though this were a journal. Your response should be about half a page to 3/4 of a page. Step 2, again, we went over the summary already. This is where you'll get into explaining why you would or would not like to have a character as a friend. Again, spelling and grammar don't count, but you're striving for at least half a page. Give those specific reasons, suggest activities or adventures you might like to do with that selected character. You might also defend your choice by explaining how the character changed from beginning to end. So you choose and you write your half page. Step 3. Your turn to ask the questions. Again, we talked about the interview. It's a series of questions and answers. Your interview should be at least 5 thought-provoking questions with convincing replies. Respond from the character's point of view. And like I just said in our discussion, if you can't come up with the answers, go ahead and come up with 10 thought-provoking questions. Again, the key here is thought-provoking. That means you're trying to get a lot of information with each question. So just saying, what's your name? Where are you from? That's not going to do it. Tell me about someone who inspired you when you were young. Tell me about your favorite adventure you went on. Those kinds of things will get a story and give you the information you want. So there's a couple samples to get you started. And once again, although spelling and grammar don't count, you're striving for that half page to 3/4 of a page. Step 4. Movie time. Again, if you wanted to film the Hate U Give with characters of your choice, identify the actors to play the characters, and explain each choice. Again, you're striving for the half page to 3/4 of a page. And step 5, would your novel be any different if the main character were of the opposite gender? Explain why or why not. And that constant reminder, quality evidence, you want to have specific examples, like certain events from the story, how things turned out differently to try and develop your writing. We want quality substance, quality over quantity, but again, strive for at least a half page. But you know what? If you've got great examples and it's under half a page, those examples are going to get you a lot further than if you have a page of meaningless words. So take your time, do it well, and you'll see the Check Your Learning is the place where you upload your best versions of your research. Choose your 2 best responses from step 5, edit and revise the Check Your Learning. Please note that although spelling and grammar didn't count in the day-to-day writing, for the check you're learning, you do want to revise. So you'll pick your 2 best responses, make them as error-free as possible, submit. Another strand. You guys are doing really well making progress already if you're getting through these, all right? So I know this seems like a lot, but trust me, this is the one that will get you the strands that will get you through the course. There are multiple available. And please remember again, what you see listed can be adjusted. There's multiple steps to argumentative writing. So if you already have one of them, I'll be able to make it work for you. So know that whatever you get to me, I'll be able to find credit for. Digging deeper, we're almost there. This last module explains or explores the final elements of quality literature: setting, plot, and theme. Setting, of course, again refers to where and when the story takes place. The plot is the what happens, what are the conflicts. And the theme is that overall message, sort of why we should pay attention to this story. What is the message that it's trying to get to us? Again, we talk about how roses can grow through concrete. It's one of the common underlying themes that even though there are bad things in life, good things can result. So that's our example there. Step 1, you'll explore the setting. Draw and label the important places on a map of where the novel takes place. Would your novel be different if the setting was different? Like if it were a different time, like a different year or a different place? Maybe the space version of the story. I don't know. Whatever you're into, make it happen. Describe the setting in the following terms: year, season of the year, amount of time that the novel spans, location in the universe, and place where most action occurs. Step 2, you'll get into it a little bit further. You're going to tell me about the conflicts. Again, those are the struggles that happen between characters, or conflict can also be person versus self, where you're having a decision, or your conscience. Sometimes you've got that little devil and that little angel. That's person versus self. You need to make a decision. So what were some of the decisions made in the novel? What are some of the conflicts? There were some street fights. There were some injuries going on. Tell me about those conflicts. Explain in detail the exposition. Again, that's a fancy word for the plot graph. A lot of I wish I had a way to sort of write, but the plot graph, it starts like this, and then it goes up and down, boom. So we start with the exposition. That's the introduction, where the characters and setting are introduced. The rising action are the events of the story that happen leading up to the climax, which is the turning point of the hero's luck. That means, was the main conflict resolved? Did Star find her voice? What happened? Then falling action, what happens after that problem has been solved? And ultimately the reader loses interest. So it could just be when they're going back home and maybe they went to McDonald's or back to that Taco Bell. You can, sort of alter the details as long as they're true to the story itself. And what that means is, would it be believable? Maybe it didn't happen entirely that way, but yeah, you were paying attention. You got the big stuff. Consider creating a story map or plot graph for this, or simply writing an explanation for each element. All right, if you want to open a page document, you can just say setting and then your key points. Rising action, key points. If you want to do the plot graph, again, we do that line up, line down, boom. Go back to our short story unit and you'll see more on the plot graph if you need to revisit that. But at this stage of the year, typically that's pretty standard. But if you need help, reach out to me or go back and check out that short story lab project from earlier in the year. Step 3 relates to theme. List the themes of the novel. Recall that theme refers to the underlying message or big idea of the book. In other words, what critical belief about life is the author trying to convey? What are they trying to say to us? The belief or idea doesn't revolve around cultural barriers or any gender. What is the universal nature of this book? Try and list 3 examples that all readers can relate to. And is the novel based upon the workings of the heart? That means, was it emotional? Was it something that you could tell was very dear to the author? Or the mind? Was it more intellectual? Was it more of an educational story? Maybe it's a mix of both. Tell me why. All right. And then step 1, 2, and 3, go through the specifics a little bit further. It'll tell you how to do the plot graph. If you want to take a regular sheet of paper, and there's a few other options there. Like I said, as I was going through Excuse me, I need to stop. I need to take a drink. But as I was saying in the overview, you can choose to do this on a Word document. You can choose to draw and take a picture, whatever works for you. So we're just going to jump right to that final, or actually, let's check Check Your Learning just to make sure. Again, this is your chance. Now that you have a rough first draft of each step, take advantage of all the editing processes. Submit images and copies of your final draft for each step. So this one you need to do for each step rather than only 2. So make sure just to double check those as you're going through. Again, I know it seems like a lot of work, but we've been doing this all year. Most of you should be starting this digging deeper in final product right now. I realize some of us are back at the beginning, but it's really important to revisit this so that you are able to get the credit as quickly and efficiently and effectively as possible. The final product, almost there. Oh, I didn't press it properly. These projects are designed to show that you've gained a thorough understanding of the novel, its characters, plot, and themes. Again, the who, the what, and the why it's important for others to read. So that message that they're saying. And no one wants to write another book report or take a test, right? We've all had enough of that. So your assignment is to complete one of the projects below. So there's multiple options. You choose one. If there's an idea for another assignment that's not included, just write up the idea, turn it into me, talk to me, find me on chat, send me an email. Do what it takes to get yourself heard, because I'm on your side. I'll probably say yes, but it's important if you have your own idea, check with me first to make sure we can get credit for it. The first option, again, you choose only one. Create a word or picture collage, or a combination of both, representing the entire novel. So you'll find pictures of key characters or what you think they'd look like, major events, that turning point. Again, turning point refers to the outcome for the hero. What was the ultimate turning point for that character? We know that Star, throughout the book, it was all about trying to find her voice. Did she find it? How did she find it? What was that turning point? This must be done on a large sheet of drawing paper or poster board. The regular paper is a little bit too small. Well, you know what? We're in distance learning now, so regular paper is just fine. I'm not particular on the size. Ultimately, in class, we would try and have more of the posters so that we can post around the school. But regular paper, whether it's printer paper, whether it's just opening a Google Doc, that size is fine. Don't worry about the size expectations, especially on distance learning. This must be accompanied by a one-page written explanation of why you selected the words and pictures that you did. All right, so represent the main ideas and events and turning points from the novel, explain them, must address the tone, mood, imagery, and theme. Those are all the things that we've been talking about. Tone is how the story's told. Mood, how does the story make you feel? Imagery, what do you see in your mind? What are those pictures? Often there was mention of roses and concrete. I keep going back to those examples, but that makes you think. Those are examples of imagery. And the theme, again, that underlying statement. What is it that the novel's trying to teach us? So this must be neat and aesthetically pleasing. So something that, is pretty to look at. Number 2, again, you choose one option. Number 2, create a newspaper or magazine about the entire novel. That includes such things as classified ads, maybe Star would be having a graduation party or something, and you'd put an ad in the paper. What would that look like? Or perhaps someone died. What would their obituary, that's the story of their life, look like? The news items, maybe there's a headline about the store being robbed or the tanks coming in, whatever news story you think is important. Sports articles, cartoons, if you can make it all work, great. But the more elements you have, the better. The newspaper or magazine will provide insight into the tone, mood, imagery, and theme of the novel, just like we talked about. How it's written, how did it make you feel, what did you see in your head, and what was the book trying to say? Create a board game. All right, this is also one of the bonus projects for the Hate U Give as a whole. So this is a sort of smaller version. So game pieces would represent the characters, and the board shows the plot sequence. Maybe you want to do a video game or some sort of Pong-like thing. You guys have more skills electronically and technologically than I do. So you have some choices there. When creating the board game, consider the tone and mood of the novel as well as the imagery and theme. This must include rules and be playable. You might want to consider games like Life, Monopoly, Clue, or Taboo. Maybe you want to rewrite the entire novel in comic book form. You should remain true to any physical setting or description as well as characters and plot. The graphic must include imagery from the original novel as well as tone, mood, and theme. So, again, those are all of the words. We'll go again. Imagery is what we see in our mind. Tone is how the author tells the story. So, what words are used? Is it a happy, upbeat tone? Is it a more somber tone that someone's going through something tough? What is the tone? The mood's how it makes you feel. And theme, again, is that message it's trying to send to the world overall, the underlying common element that we can all relate to. Keep a diary from a main character's point of view. Your gender doesn't matter. This should include his or her thoughts and feelings. And just like it says, Dear Diary, today this happened. Today this happened. And again, I believe, if I go back to the top, it just says one of the projects, okay? And typically it's about a page. As we see most of these options, it's a page of written explanation, a page of the newspaper, page for, so keep in mind the diary, even if your entries are a little short, you're striving for about a page of writing. Write a series of letters the two main characters in the novel might have written to one another during the course of the entire novel. So maybe Star writing to a friend, or maybe an online, whatever it works. Maybe you want to do the text messages between Star and Chris. Have some fun with it. Include the imagery from the novel and a hint of the theme. Maybe you want to get playful and make puppets or finger puppets. Maybe a mask representing a character. Here's a more creative one. Maybe you do just want the standard book report. Make a minimum of 15 slides talking about the information listed. Or maybe you want to get even more creative. Write your own poem or song, or find a collection of poems written by other people that relate to the novel. If it were made into a movie, what would you want to see in the movie and compare the two? Or write a letter to the producer about what you would have in the movie, trying to convince them to make the book into a movie as though there weren't one already. All right, so a lot of options there. You choose one. Again, you're striving for about a page, 2 pages max. Don't think that you have to do a ton, because you've done a lot along the way and you get the strands for having done at least one of these modules. So there's the biggie. I know it took a while, but I also know you can do it, and I know you guys want to do well. So make me proud. Go back, revisit that novel study, and make yourself, earn that credit. I don't know what I was going to say there. I had a little moment where I thought I had something whimsical or witty to say, but I don't. Just get your work done, guys. I'm here to help. Reach out if you need it. Watch the video as many times as you need. Take care, and have a great day.